Welcome back to the Centered on Buffalo podcast. This week's guest is one of the best players in Bills history and one of the most dominant defensive linemen in the NFL for over a decade. We have six-time Pro Bowler Kyle Williams joining us. Kyle, welcome to the podcast, brother.
What's happening?
I want to know what's going on with you. I feel like me and Bills Mafia want a quick update. Besides wrangling those 5 kids of yours, I see you with a play drawn in the background. I hope we're not giving away any company secrets, but what's been going on with you?
I work at the high school I went to, and I'm the defensive coordinator here, and I'm the compliance director for all athletics for the school. So what I do is I handle eligibility for all of our, I think it's 600 athletes at our school. So I check grades, and I'm the middleman between Ruston High School and the Louisiana High School Athletic Association. So I'm an administrator from that standpoint here at the school.
That's cool. Does NIL come into play with these guys potentially and gals getting recruited?
Potentially when they go to college. We have a couple of kids that are signing at, we have a SEC kid this year. We have a kid going to Tulane, Louisiana Tech. And, the NIL comes into play when they're going to college and getting involved with college. If we start handing out cash to high school kids, I'll probably drop my keys and I'll have to leave. I don't know that I'm equipped to handle that with a 16-year-old, but it's definitely a different world. I'm not really sure mentally what to make of it. It seems like it's a bit out of control, but it's a different deal. Luckily, nobody handed me $200,000 when I was 19. I went to Baton Rouge at LSU. Like that would have been a train wreck.
Oh, I agree 100%. Yeah, as much as I'm glad for these kids to get some extra cash in their pocket, you're also setting them up for failure in a lot of ways. Just handing them cash, letting them quit on their team and transfer and all that. You're really not doing them a service. Do they let you handle the pregame speeches before the football games?
No, I don't. I'm out of practice. That would not go very well. And really, by the time we get to Friday, a lot of these kids are tired of hearing me anyway. So they need a fresh voice, and they need to get me out of the way. And I'm good. I'm glad that we've got a good head coach that handles all of the things that I need to be out of the way of. So I kind of mosey along, try to stay behind the scenes as much as I can, and just try to spend time with kids and develop them the best that I can.
Well, they're depriving you of one of your great talents, but that's okay. That'll come at some point, I'm sure. How's the body feeling? And look, I was doing the math earlier, and I was like, you're 3 years older, so you got to be 40 years old now. How's the body feeling?
Well, I don't know that I appreciate you putting my business in the street like that and talking about how much younger you are than me. It's not bad. I have good days and I guess bad days. But I would say that this job and what I'm doing and the age kids that I'm dealing with, they keep me on my toes and they keep me moving around and running around and staying busy. And like in the summer, I run all of our on-field stuff. So like I'm controlling all of our runs, and so I'm down here in Louisiana, you hit the turf at 6:30 in the morning, and you don't get off till noon. I mean, it can be a scorcher, it can be tough, but I think I obviously move better. I feel better while I'm moving. The worst thing for me would be to sit up and sit down and not move around and then get stoved up and stiff. But I still try to work out and ride my bike and do staying active and stuff like that, because if I don't, that's really the first step to being, I guess, worn down and not able to do the things that you want to do.
Speaking about the things that you want to do, are you getting to play any golf?
No, I haven't played golf in a while. Really, it's kind of funny how perspective changes and the things that you want to do and that are important to you. You go into waves, and I hit more golf balls than I play golf. It's kind of like a decompression time for me. I've got a couple of kids that like to play, and like in the summertime, after our workouts, a couple 2-3 days a week, we might go to the back of the range and hit balls, and we maybe play 2 or 3 holes and then go home. But the days of playing 2, 3, 4 days a week, teeing off on 1 on 18, or they're pretty much dead. But honestly, I don't miss it. I don't chase it. I still try to play a little bit in the summertime because I do enjoy the times that I get to get out. But I'm not mad at it anymore, so to speak. I used to be, try to get my game right and play a lot, and that's just not the phase that I'm in. I mean, like you said, I got 5 kids. I've got 2 in high school that are each one of the girls is involved in 2 or 3 different sports at the high school. The boys are doing a million different things, and going and loading up and taking off and playing for 4 or 5 hours. That's just not on the docket really anymore.
Yeah, and I understand
I
that.
still
Yeah,
try to get up to New York and play. I still try to get up to Oak Hill and and Buffalo and play once or twice in the summer, but just as far as like around here, but not a whole lot of that going on.
do you keep the membership at Oak Hill?
Yeah, I still got it. Like I said, I try to get up there twice a year, for a weekend or something like that. I think last year I went once. So, I'm not getting the good out of it that I should, but I still enjoy going up there. And then when I set foot there, and as long as I don't go over to St. John Fisher, and like get like the whole deja vu of training camp, I'm in a good place while I'm there. But if I go over there, I get this queasy feeling, and I'm like, oh my God, I have to go into room 104 and go to bed, and then I've got meetings and all that. So I just try to stick to this side of St. John Fisher and go to Oak Hill.
Right. Yeah, we got to play that last year. I brought one of my buddies up for the final round, and then we played it the day afterwards. And me and Kyle would, for those listening, we would play a couple members each year at the start of training camp, and Kyle would whoop them, and I would cover my handicap for a few holes. But we would generally get the best of them. But this was a totally different course, playing it like the pros did. I mean, it went from hey, par's acceptable on each hole, maybe make a couple birdies, and there's a few bogeys to look. If you don't hit the fairway, you're essentially playing for double after the chop out and the way the greens are rolling. It was quite the challenge.
I mean, it's hard enough on a Tuesday in July, and you roll up out there, much less how they're getting it ready for a major championship. A good friend of mine here in town, he's a professional golfer, and he played in it, and he was like, it was the hardest course, like the hardest possible thing that you can imagine. I said, oh, I can imagine it. I've been out there before, and I'm like, well, I could have just pulled up and gotten kicked in the shin and pulled off, rather than waste that 4 hours. But it's a beautiful place. It's a great place to go, especially in the summertime. I get to get away from here where it's just sweltering and heat, and you go up there and you can, you spend the day outside, and you're like, oh, I do enjoy being outside. Here I look through the window some days, I'm like, I don't want to go out there. It's hot, it's brutal. But having a chance to go back there and visit, old friends and be in the area and play golf is important to me when I have time to do it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's a beautiful spot. So you spent 13 years in Buffalo. Was there ever a time that you got close to leaving in free agency?
Well, really, the only time that I was ever on the doorstep of free agency was before my last year. I'd always kind of done contracts a year or two early and did some extensions and did some things, and it really kind of stayed out in front of it. And then my last year, my contract, well, I guess my 12th year, my contract ran out. The year we went to the playoffs, and then
Right, because I
I'm sitting
remember
there, and
we were down in
you know,
Jupiter, and you got a call that
yeah.
you had heard from someone in the media. Someone in the media was saying that you wanted to hit free agency and you weren't willing to negotiate with the Bills, something along those lines.
Yeah, those are always interesting things to read, and being the first to have heard things like that, and I think everybody's trying to scoop everybody and get out in front of everything. And, and, there was a lot of teams that called, and, and I don't know, like, kind of like what you're talking about, that report. I don't know what kind of sense that makes. It's like, hey, I'm really excited about hitting free agency at 35 years old and, 13 years in the league. Like, I'm going to hit this big windfall at that age, like what these guys are getting paid. That's just not the reality of the situation. Um, but, there was, probably, I would say 2 or 3 like serious teams that wanted me to come in and on a 2-year deal, stuff like that, and 1-year deal. And really, I just wanted to do 1 year, no matter what, just because of I didn't want to hook into 2 years and not feel like just because I'm getting more money up front and then I wouldn't be able to perform or fulfill my obligations. I guess I look at that stuff at that point and really contracts a little bit differently at that point. Like I wanted to be able to fulfill my end of it. I wanted to be able to perform the way that I wanted to perform, or I was going to quit. Like
Right.
if I couldn't do it, I'm done. Like I'm not going to. I've been able to perform and do these things for so many years. Like if I turned on the tape and I couldn't do it, I'd be disgusted with myself and I would quit. Like I wouldn't be able to watch it. And really, ultimately, had a couple of decent offers, and it just came down to like where my heart was. I just like do I really want to move to you know this state or that state for a year or two, uproot my family um, for like a little bit more money or another. I don't know. It's just the way that I evaluated it, and and it's probably foolish. It's probably not good business sense. I look at it like, hey, everybody had an opportunity to draft me, but only one team did, and I know the people changed and the people in charge changed and all that kind of stuff, but I always felt some type of way about that. And then obviously the relationship with the city and the community and the people. To me, your life is all about relationships, right? And I had a great relationship with the community and the city, and it meant something to me, and it meant something to me to finish there and to do it right. Because if I get down the line, I've got kids and like an opportunity to tell them like, hey, loyalty is important. Sticking it out's important, and that was important to me. So that's really where we landed, and obviously I love Sean and Brandon and like the whole Terry and Kim were really good to me when they bought the team, and it was just important to me the people and the community far outweighed any other opportunities that came up. So for me, it just ended up being an easy decision and to finish where I needed to finish.
Yeah, that's really cool and extremely well said. I love what you said about the relationships and the loyalty and be able to teach your kids. That's really good stuff. Talk about a franchise appreciating you too. Correct me if I'm wrong. You came in as a 5th round draft pick, correct? 5th round draft pick.
It was the first overall pick of the 5th round. Okay,
That's a big difference.
so
You're almost a
depending
fourth.
on look, that's pretty much a second round pick if you really do the math on it. But I mean, there's a lot of pressure that comes with being the first overall pick in a round. So you know, first overall pick, but it's really like number 150, or I don't know what the number was, but being at the top of the round's important. I took that really, really to heart. But yeah, I was a 5th round pick. I kind of mumble it, but
Okay, well,
no, I was
did,
really I just wanted opportunity.
I didn't bring that up to take a shot at you. I brought that up to say the Bills extended you after what, 2 seasons?
After my second year, and look, I'm 3 years older. You got drafted 4 rounds earlier. Like I get it. I get all of those things. I'm old. You're important. First round pick. All that kind of stuff. I'll stay in my lane. Yes, sir. All that kind of stuff. Yes, after my second year, all that kind of stuff. So
But that's a big
um,
deal. I mean,
I
that's a
just
big
wanted an opportunity.
but that's a big deal in the NFL. No one gets re-signed in the NFL after 2 years. So you talk about a franchise that showed you extreme loyalty early on and appreciation. And so on the back end of your career, you get to show them the same thing, help them break the playoff drought, help set up the culture. And look, I know you're going to be extremely humble about this, but you got to pour into a lot of the guys that are making a huge impact now, including Sean and Brandon, who are getting their first opportunity as a head coach and GM. So you made a monster impact on that organization. And I really don't even want to let you follow up on that because you're going to make a joke about it and you're going to bring extreme humility to that. So I'm just going to switch it in a different direction because a guy that you've got to spend some time around is Ed Oliver, who's playing the best ball of his career after a contract extension. And we both know that that's pretty rare in this league, especially for some reason with the defensive lineman, because you're always chasing sacks right before the year you hit free agency, and then you cool down a little bit. But Ed's playing even better than he has his whole career. What have you seen from him this year that's maybe a little bit different?
Well, I think he had some injury things the last couple of years, that probably slowed him down, limited some of his the games that he was able to get into, and as well as I do that you're spending some time getting used to the NFL game. Somebody explained it to me one time, like, hey, you're spending a year or two and you're figuring out where you fit in with the team. You're figuring out your role really within the league. Am I starting material? Am I a backup? Am I a high caliber player? And then those next few years, you're solidifying yourself within the league or within the team, and the game's going to slow down for you. Well, you only get that if you get the reps, right? I mean, if you get consistent daily reps about playing, seeing things, seeing blocking schemes, and I know that you're going to love this, like hearing the offensive line communicate, knowing what's going on, understanding like, oh, I know what they're fixing to do, and I can cheat, and I can steal half a step, and I can play the game within the game, and then all of a sudden you're playing a half step faster, and that pressure turns into a hit, and that hit turns into a sack. My first year out when I worked with the team and did some consulting stuff and came back and forth, I really liked Ed's mental makeup. Ed was feisty. Ed's competitive. Like he's going to get after you all the time. Which there's some things in there that like I can totally identify with. And and like people want to say, oh well, he's not this enough. He's not that enough. Well, I can identify with some of that too. I said, well, what you can't measure unless you spend time with people is their mental makeup about how they go about their business and how he's going to get after it. And I saw that when he was a rookie. We were talking and doing things at camp, and I was coming in town, and I like really liked where he was like mentally and how he approached the game. And then obviously, I mean, he's powerful. He's extremely explosive. So I think what we're seeing is a product of reps, and the game and everything is slowing down for him. So now he's able to think pre-snap. And look, this is just my opinion. I haven't talked to Ed about this specifically. Just my experience is now, rather than just worry about, oh, I got to line up at the 3 technique, I'm out of breath, when's the ball going to get snapped? Now he's thinking and understanding like what's coming, how can I cheat it? And then he's using the gifts that he has to his advantage.
Yeah, that's really well said. There was a lot of criticism on Sean McDermott. When the Bills get to 6-6, that article comes out about Ty Dunn, and everyone's wondering about his future. And I'm sitting there on the other hand saying, man, this defense is playing really well. And I'm sure as a defensive coordinator now, and knowing defensive ball as well as anyone that's played the game, the way he's adapted his scheme to fit the personnel that he had left at times this year has been impressive to see. What's your opinion on Sean? And I know your feelings about him as a person, but to lead this franchise the way he's done for 7 years and to build this culture from what we experienced for over a decade prior, what's your thoughts on Sean McDermott and his ability to lead this franchise in the future to a Super Bowl?
Well, without going on a tangent about, my affections for Sean and who he is and all that kind of stuff, really, I think all you have to do is when their back was against the wall, when all that stuff was going on with the greatest amount of adversity, struggling, this and that, all you have to look at is how the team responded.
Mm-hmm.
Really, I don't think you have to say anything else. When he's getting the most heat that he's getting, the team's getting the most heat that they're getting, how did the team respond under his leadership? Well, what are they, 5 wins in a row now? They're the 2 seed in the playoffs. They won the AFC East for the 4th time in a row. really, to me, that's like a mic drop deal. Like, hey, you know, attack us from all different directions. Well, then we back ourselves up against the wall. And that's when you see what a team is made of. Are they is it gonna cause cracks and dissension? Or we've seen the opposite. They've linked arms and went and got after it and bonded together. So to me, that's really all you have to look at.
Yeah, I agree with that. Um, I've seen especially a bunch of defensive players that are in the media be hypercritical of Josh's play and the turnovers. But what's your thoughts on the fact that people will say that Josh shouldn't even be considered for the NFL MVP because of the turnovers, despite leading the league in total touchdowns and total yards?
Well, so I have to go back. If you go back in time, right, and I tell this story to some of these guys. They ask like, who I played against or how it was. Like, I actually played against Brett Favre when he played for the Packers. You know, I played against Brett Favre when he played for the Packers and the Vikings and the Jets. Kind of all over. So if you look back over the history, that seems a lot like maybe that guy. I mean, he was going to take chances. He was going to do amazing things, and then something was going to happen that you're like, oh no, like how did that come about? Now I think you ask him or you ask Sean or you ask the quarterbacks coach, whoever, they're going to go, hey, there's some plays we need to eliminate, right? Because I mean he's going to be a self-critical player trying to figure out how to get better. But there's also, you're not going to get some of those big plays or those wow moments without Josh leaning into his instincts and his talent. So I think there's a balance there that he's trying to figure out, and the coaches are all trying to figure out. But good Lord, you wouldn't want to put a bridle on a thoroughbred horse and make him go barrel race. Like, hey, we want to turn this dude loose and let him go. So I think they're all trying to figure out the appropriate balance. But to me, the appropriate balance too is like, hey, when you got a horse, you need to let that joker run.
Yeah, and I think we saw that this year. I think at some point they said, look, dialing Josh back and trying to make him too conservative, that's not letting him play to his strengths. And, I defend him at all times. I mean, that's what I do for a living, I feel like, in national media appearances nowadays. But look, this is a guy who on his high school team, he put it all on his back. And early on in the league, when there wasn't a lot of talent, and when he's at a JUCO and he gets one scholarship and he goes to Wyoming, well, you got a decade of ingrained decisions in him that say, put the team on your back, make the play, make a big play. Well, when those split second decisions come, it's not going to be erased in the course of even a few years. Like, it's still going to be in him, and I appreciate that about him. And when he's on, like we saw, especially the second half of the Dolphins game, no one's better. No one's better.
Well, too, I think, like you said, yeah, there's mistakes which they work daily to clean up, but like, there's mistakes come because he's trying to do something for the team and trying to do something great, and this, those types of deals, right? You're not going to make any mistake, you're not going to make any mistakes by being like super conservative and hey, doing this and doing that. To me, though, you have to look at it from a schematic standpoint of when he's able to be himself and he's able to do all these different things. You have to defend every inch of that field. You have to defend depth, horizontal. I mean, you've got to defend all areas of the field. Ask James Cook how that works out.
Right.
And like the team and all the different things that you're able to do, and ask a defensive guy, like, puts you on your heels, makes you play conservative. Now you're dictating to them because of what you do. I'll give you a little story. So Eric Weddle and our good buddies, we did all the Pro Bowl stuff and all that stuff together. And maybe my last year we played in, it was because Josh was on the team. It was my last year. We played them in Baltimore. And we were talking after the game, and he goes, man, I'm glad that rookie didn't play. We're like, well, what's the story there? He goes, man, you got to just defend the whole field. Like, I mean, he can put the ball in places that people can't. He can move around, so I think you got to look at it, the kind of trouble or the kind of stress that he puts on the defense because of what he does as well. And the other thing is because all these these different plays he creates, you're never really out of a game either. I mean, you're 2 snaps away from going on a 21 point, 14 point swing, and all of a sudden, like it's been bad all night, don't have any rhythm. We can't do this, and then all of a sudden, like, oh, we're in a game that we probably shouldn't be in because lightning struck. So it goes both ways.
Yeah, yeah, it absolutely does. All right, I got a couple quick ones for you, and we'll get you out of here. Number one, what is your favorite wing spot in Buffalo?
Barbell.
What's your order?
Just I like medium. I like them plain and enjoy what they did. We used to go there. Me, Aaron Schobel, Chris Kelsey. We used to go there like every Monday afternoon.
Yeah, that's like your old fart group. Just go over there and be grumpy and complain about everything and solve all the world's problems.
That's right. Like these high paid rookie first round centers when they get there, and we go over there and talk bad about everybody. It was a great time.
Nothing was better than when I'd see Schobel at breakfast and I'd just go sit right by him, big old smile on my face, and he would get so mad. And I
Oh man,
think
I'm surprised. Did he get up and walk away?
he would, but then he realized I'm not going to get up and walk away every day, so now I'm just going to have to talk to him. And then I'd put Levitri on the
So,
other side of him.
oh god. So I'll give you a funny story. So I still talk to Aaron a lot. Aaron is coaching high school football for his brother in Columbus, Texas,
Yeah.
and he's coaching the defensive line. And we'll text and talk every once in a while, and he'll ask me something about, hey, you remember this? Like I would do this, and that. I'm like, Aaron, like, why are you at like he said, hey man, I didn't give a what about it. I was trying to go get the quarterback. Like I don't know anything about like the technique. Like I was going to get the quarterback and laugh. So we end up talking football quite a bit, but he has not changed. He said, I don't know anything about all that. Like I don't care about that. I was trying to go get the quarterback. I said,
So
well, I do remember that.
So I knew of Aaron Schobel before I got to Buffalo. I'd play Madden. He's a talented pass rusher, this and that. And I get to Buffalo and in training camp, he's awful. I mean, he is the laziest dude. And I say lazy, but he's also not making any contact either. And I'm like, who is this dude? And I feel like is he throwing in the towel this year? What's going on? And we go out and play Tennessee in the Hall of Fame game, and Dick Duran makes the defensive starters play like a series. Well, Schobel takes it upon himself to end that series really quick. They throw a bubble screen. He goes from defensive end, makes the play. He's got like 2 pressures. Y'all are off the field, and Schobel sits down. And our offensive line coach, Sean Kugler, was like, hey, I'm just telling you all, you guys cannot act like him in practice and go put on a show like that in the game. Like, you guys don't have that ability. He does. But it blew my mind.
Well, Bill Kolar always said, Bill retired this past year, and when he was coaching us, he said, I've been around 2 people in my whole career that could turn it on and off like a switch. He said, Marshall Falk and Aaron Schobel. And, I've got obviously a million Schobel stories. Only a handful are appropriate for anybody that may be watching this. But, we'd always play Detroit the last preseason games. And, like Coach Duran or whoever was like, hey, first group, you're going to play a series, and he's mad, don't want to play, don't want this and that. But I think it was 2 or 3 years in a row we would get into third down on that first series, and he'd look down the line. He goes, "Y'all ready to get out of this game?" We're like, "Yeah," and he would blow by Jeff Backus and get a sack and just giggle and go to the sideline. I mean, what Backus play 12, 13, 14. I mean, he's a really good player.
Right.
But he would call his shot. He'd be like, yeah, I'm ready to get out of here. I don't want to be playing this preseason game anyway. He said, y'all ready to go? We're like, yeah. Well, what you waiting on? He goes, I got it. Go by and get a sack and laugh and go to the sideline so he could get out of the game. That's a true story. He would, y'all ready to get out of here? I'm ready. I'm ready to be done with this. So he was one of a kind. He was quite the character.
That works opposite on the offensive side of the ball. We need to have like a 10-play scoring drive because if we go 3 and out, they're going to stick us back out there for the next series. But a 3 and out, you guys can get 3. Yeah, but then if you give up a 10-play scoring drive, you might be out there the next one. So I guess there's 2 sides to that. All right, last one. So it's supposed to be snowy in Buffalo this weekend. There's a lake effect ban that could potentially hit the area, maybe affect the game. But there's a lot of out-of-towners coming in and be driving around. What's your best advice for driving in the snow after being up there for 13 years?
Stay off the brakes. you know, let it roll through. Give them plenty of distance in front of you. But don't lean on the brakes. I've had my fair share of skidding, and I was able somehow to stay out of the ditches for 13 years, especially my first few years, which was a minor miracle. But it's kind of like you wish they were having a Florida team in for a game like that. You know, you got Pittsburgh coming in, but man, I'm excited to watch the playoffs. I don't obviously with being swamped. During football season, our team we won the state championship this year, so we played all the way up to December 10th, and I usually have the game on my TV here in the office while we're game planning, getting ready, and peek at the score every once in a while. And it's nice there here the back half of December to be able to sit down and like actually watch every snap and live and die with it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, yeah, you're exactly right. Pittsburgh, they can muddy up a game. Still confident in the Bills this weekend. The only time I ever was in an accident, and I don't even want to call it an accident in the snow, was I was riding with Lee Evans one time. He skids his Escalade into a guardrail, merging onto the highway, and then just keeps rolling. I said, "You didn't even check it out?" He said, "There's really no point. I mean, like we're not going to call the cops. I just skid in the guardrail anyway, so let's just keep rolling."
Well, I mean that too. That's another point of like the difference between us. That's first round problems. That's like y'all's Escalades and Range Rovers and all that. F-250s, Ford trucks, they plow right through that stuff. I never had to worry about that fancy car. I just had to throw diesel in it and drop that bad boy in gear and get rolling.
Hey, well, this first rounder, you had the 3-bedroom unit in our townhouse. I got the 2-bedroom one that Stroud left. So I was actually living in a more, even though we shared a wall, I was in a more humble spot.
Well, God bless you for sharing a wall with all those wild folks that lived over there with me. They just felt sorry for me. They knew that we needed all the space. Our kids run around in diapers and throwing stuff and carrying on and running in and out of everybody's houses. Bunch of wild folks over there. Those were some tough years for you, I'm sure.
No, we enjoyed it, and we got to learn from you all too. I give you all a lot of credit for that because me and Leslie got to observe you and Jill as Christian parents raising young kids. Our first was a girl, your first two were girls, so we got to experience that, and I truly appreciate it. And I appreciate your time, Kyle. I'll let you get back to your off-season duties, your compliance work, keep those kids eligible so y'all can win another state championship.
We're gonna try. It's good to see you, buddy.
Yep, you too.